The easiest thing to do is to work alone, and then you come out of doing your thing because then you're doing your thing. But you don't go far because there are issues. And I've tried it. Ability to get up, dust yourself, take a bath, wear your clothes, and go there and sit down, even when you don't understand what you're doing. And if you don't show up, two things happen. People don't see you as serious. So it means that even the right partners that you want are not interested in working with you because they believe that you are not consistent. Okay. And then when you don't show up, those opportunities, when they come, you're not there. So if you're not there, the next person who is there takes it.
All right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast, and thanks so much for tuning in once again. Today, Jam and I are incredibly excited because we have our first guest from Africa. Today on the show, we have Uju Uzo-Ojinnaka, who is the founder and CEO of Traders of Africa, which is essentially like Alibaba except for Africa. And so we're really looking forward to kind of diving into her story and understanding her.
So I met Uju at Harvard Business School, and very excited to have you, Uju, and wanted to explore, understand your background, understand your story, and thank you for being part of this.
It's a pleasure. I mean, I see I'm quite privileged to be here, being with you on this show. Thank you for having me.
So, Uju, this podcast is the quest for success, right? And so, for us to begin, we really need to understand something quite fundamental, and that is, what does success mean to you?
For me, really, I think I'll see myself as successful if I'm able to marry properly. I'm a mother, okay? I'm a wife, a mother, and then the founder, CEO of Traders of Africa. So for me, success will be for me to be able to align all of these responsibilities that I have in each of these roles that I play, ability to put them together and hold them together. For me, that's success.
And when you say hold them together, do you just mean like have that kind of balance across all kind of three of those things that you're juggling?
Yes. I mean, continuously be an awesome wife, even if I say so myself, you know, and an amazing mother, being there when any of my kids needs me, doing what I have to do to instill discipline, morals, and be there for my kids in every phase of their life, and at the same time slay in the boardroom, raise
Yep.
TOFA, do whatever I need to do in TOFA. So for me, ability to do all of these things, you know, with God at the center, of course, is success for me.
That's really awesome, Uju. Before we talk about your business success and all your family, etc., we want to take you back to your young Uju, right? We want to, if you don't mind, share with us your story. How did you started? Like, where did you grow up, and your family, etc. Please.
Okay, so I am the last in a family of 11.
Wow.
Yes. So we lived in the eastern part of Nigeria. I'm an Igbo lady. Nigeria, the various tribes. I'm from the east, and that's where I grew up. And I must say that as I grow, I realize the impact my family and my upbringing has had on me because from a young age, I was part of the conversation. I had a seat at the table. So we had this tradition growing up that we eat together. We eat dinner together. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, so long as you're in that my parents' city, you must come home to eat dinner. And then after dinner, you can go back out and do whatever you're doing. But we all eat dinner. And it is after dinner that conversations are had. So if somebody is not doing so well, if any of my elder ones had issues in marriage, in business, or anything, it was typically brought in that in after meeting after the dinner. Maybe my parents will raise it all, people will contribute, and all of that thing. So that's the way my home has been. And So I grew up listening to those things. I wasn't shielded from them, and sometimes for the ones that concerns me, my dad will usually talk. I said, Uju, what do you think? So you can imagine a young lady, a young girl being asked to contribute to adult conversations,
Yep.
and I also remember when I was about to enter college, I had admissions in several schools, and my dad, happy that we had those admissions, turned to me to say, Uju, which school do you want to go to? And it's significant because my dad asking you that question doesn't mean that he say, okay, I want A. It comes, I've learned over the years that when you're asked those questions, it comes with why.
Mm.
So it's taken for granted, oh, I wanted this school because, so you give your reasons,
Yep.
you know. And most times, if your reason is genuine, he talks and says, thank you. What she says is what we're doing. So I
Yeah.
had confidence growing up, so nothing phases me. I'm not afraid of anything. That's true. In fact, these days, my fearlessness scares me. Scares me that I find it difficult to speak about it to even people because I feel that they won't understand where I'm coming from. But I'm not scared. I could go to any office, deliver my lines. I'm not even scared whether you're the president of the world. As small as I am, and whoever, I can be with billionaires and people who I probably am not able to open their office doors, and it's okay, and I'm having fun there. I mean, Jam, our class, you know what the class was like. So that's the who I was growing up, and I think that is the foundation for who I am today.
And what was the age gap between you and the oldest of your siblings?
My older sibling um is about almost 25 years older than I am.
Wow. Right. So those conversations, yeah, you really got exposed to a lot of a lot of stuff.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I guess like that. You're talking about that, like having that different conversation, having that exposure to adult conversation, teenage conversation. As a youngest person in the family, you're pretty fearless, right? Like you can, yeah.
Yes, of course. Of
And
course,
and
that's what.
and
Go ahead.
what did your parents do?
My parents were traders.
All right. What kind
They,
of trading?
they were trading more in commodities. So my dad was a distributor with Unilever.
All
Used to
right.
be Liver Brothers at that time. In fact, I was told that my name Uju was given by the regional manager of Unilever at that time, who came to the hospital where my mom gave birth to me. So my
Wow.
dad was actually the number one distributor they had in the southeast at that time. So,
Mm.
of course, you have to be very close to your distributors, right? So, I think when they gave birth to me, he came to the hospital and he said, "Well, this one is Uju," and he stuck,
Oh,
and that's
wow.
what he gave me. Yes,
Is
you
there a
know,
real meaning in your
yes,
language? Yeah.
yes. It means so. My full name is Obianuju Ako, and it can also be Obianujunwa. It means someone that is born in the midst of wealth, or someone born in the midst of children. And both of them works for me really because I mean, being the last family of 11, um, I'm the ninth child in that family.
Mm-mm. So,
You know,
Uju, having a big family, you had any influence from any of your brothers and sisters? And did they try to teach you, or you learned from them over the years?
both. I mean, growing up, I learned. I saw my sisters and my brothers get into trouble that I learned not to be there. Because I mean it was discussed there, right? You heard what everybody was doing, what was making our parents happy or not, the punishments that were meted. So you try not to be in those things. But as a child and as a human being, sometimes you create your own problems, right? And so it also meant that I had 4 men and 4 women who were looking down on me. By looking down, I mean they're looking at you, interested in your case. So because I have 4 sisters and 4 brothers, all living. All right. So it means that
Nice.
nobody wants you to make mistake. Everybody is forever checking up on you. I am that child. While I was in campus in University of Lagos here, I'm the person that my brothers on their way uh, traveling abroad, maybe for their business, will stop by school to just check up on me before going to the airport, and then come with the airport taxi straight to the school to check on me before. In fact, on the day it dawned on me was, so there was this thing, this thing that students do when you're leaving your room, you put something to say, okay, I'm in the library, I'm here. We usually had that in school. And so I'll put it and say, Uju is at the library. So you point library. And I went to and really I was at the library, thank God, because I don't know what would have happened if I said I was at the library and I was elsewhere. Anyway, so I was in the library studying, and suddenly my name was being announced in the public address system. I didn't even believe it because I didn't. Library is usually very quiet.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so you can imagine hearing your name out of the. So I was like, "What's happening?" So I ran out, and I went to the reception. I said, "Go outside." I went outside, and there was my brother.
Yeah.
You know what he told me?
Yeah.
He said, "Thank you for being where you said you will be."
Yeah. Those, yeah.
So he was coming back from the airport, went to my room, saw that, came to the library to actually make sure that I'm there. And you can imagine what would have happened if I didn't come out and he went home. He was going to report me big time.
So did you find them like nice to see your brothers and sisters taking care of you, or kind of annoying?
Both. Yes, both. And because I'm also the last, I'm the one that they send on the most errands. So when we are together, even till today, when we are together, I'm the one that does the arrangements, food, taking care of this, making phone calls. I'm the family secretary. So I'm like the integrator there. You have to look after every other person, and really, I realize that the older we get, the more childish we are. So you have to call people to order to say, no, don't do this. This isn't right. Stop. And I'm the last, right? And you have to be careful the way you say those things so that they don't come out as if you're not being respectful. It's a whole lot, but I enjoy it. I actually do enjoy it.
Yeah, so it's clear that family is obviously a big part of your life. But you
Yeah.
mentioned there university. What did you study?
I studied sociology and anthropology. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then after that, you went into the banking sector, right?
Yes. Yes, I went into the banking sector.
Oh,
I didn't want to do banking. So when I finished, I actually wanted to work in international relations, like diplomats. I don't know. I had this, kind of dream. I wanted to work in an international organization like the UN. I was already seeing myself and for all that, but I didn't get in. I tried actually, but I was told I had to go do my masters. At that time, the information wasn't as open as it is today. And so when I was ranking what I wanted to do, I wanted to do that. The third thing I wanted to do was banking.
mm.
So I didn't get the first two, so I got banking.
Yeah. So out of 8 siblings that you had, you have like, did you look up to anyone? Like, I want to be like her or him.
No,
No, you want to be you.
I want to be me. That's what my dad wants. It was intentional. He keeps saying, I like, so there was something my dad does that I still inculcate even in my kids till today. I think he had a favorite. I think he likes my first brother and my first sister more. I don't know whether it's more just, but I
Yep.
think he does that. But that's that. I think he doesn't compare. Whenever I'm around him, and because I'm the last, I get to stay with them the longer.
Mm.
Um, so you hear him talk about each one of us and our vices and our virtues, without any wanting one person to be very perfect. He understood that this your sister, you know that she doesn't like, she will tell you, you know, this your sister doesn't like cooking. Okay, well, you know, this one doesn't want this, or no, talk to this person. He's the person that will do this for you. You know, so he understood each one of his kids, knew our weaknesses and strengths, and we sit down and watch you. And maybe we were amusing him too, you know. So he will watch you play out, and he already knows where you're going anyway. He was a good man. He
Yeah,
was.
yeah. So, Uju, what inspired you to shift from your corporate career to finding your business, TOFA?
Actually, maybe because I also think my parents, I would think, you know, because my parents were entrepreneurs, right? You know, I've told you about my dad, and my mom was also into commodities, selling beverages, and all of those things.
All right.
And growing up, the way we were all brought up, every one of us would go after school during the holidays. We all went to boarding houses. So during the holidays, you will accompany one of them to his business. So typically then it got to a point where the guys will accompany our dad to his business and I'll follow my mom. And sometimes I would go with our dad, you know, and when you go, they will assign tasks for you to do. Sometimes it's to go to bank or to deliver things or to do one thing or the other, right? So I saw them, I saw the way they lived, and it was a way of life. And I felt entrepreneurship, that's what I was born into at that time. But you know, when I worked in banking, I usually say that entrepreneurship is a calling because it's a very difficult thing to do. It's one of the most difficult things I've had to do, to be honest, aside having kids, you know, and raising children. But you know, entrepreneurship, because you don't know, it's a risk. You don't even know whether what you're doing is going to work, you know.
Mhm.
And who goes into puts everything they have into something they're not sure, no matter how much research or how much money you put into it, you're not sure it will work. And even if it's working today, does not mean it won't work tomorrow. You see,
Mhm.
it's very
That's the
rational.
exciting part.
Yes.
That's like not knowing what's gonna happen, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and
That's what it
and so tell us what that transition piece was like. Like, what's the founding story of TOFA?
Okay, so I'll go back a bit before
Yep.
TOFA. So I did banking for 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I remember it was my last year. I wanted to start a toilet tissue factory
Mm-hmm.
because my husband was staying in South Africa at that time. I was married. I had two kids at that time. And then when I go to South Africa to visit, I will always see some tissue papers that they have some drawings of teddy bears on them. They were very nice. I liked it. It wasn't popular. I've never seen it in Nigeria at that time. So I wanted to make that kind of toilet tissue papers, right? So I started saving, you know, and then I left banking to start it up. Before I left, I used all my savings, bought a land, you know, built the factory, saw somewhere to get the machines, borrowed to join what I have to get the machine, you know, and wanted to start it up. And my idea, when you work in banking and work in commercial banking and work among successful businesses, money looks very easy. When you $100 million, $100 million, what do LC of 200,000. I want to give money is not
Yeah.
money is very small. So but I started that, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. Just so that everything. Just think about what would go wrong. It went wrong. You know, Started not getting money. Those monies that were looking very small, suddenly I couldn't understand why I can't get them. The fact the machines didn't work out well. Selling of the tissue was another big matter. I couldn't even make those kind of tissues in the first instance. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. So I had to sell. I had to close. I was in debt. You know, in fact, a friend of mine gave me some money. So luckily, and then I borrowed from the bank too. So I was owing by the time I closed it. And to make matters maybe not so bad, I was also pregnant towards the end, In fact, I was 9 months. I was pregnant for my 10th child, So when I traveled to have my baby, it was those 6 weeks were 6 weeks of clarity for me because I had to tell myself some few home truths. You know, I didn't have the support of my husband to do that business, so I didn't have a backbench at home. You know, so it was just me, totally me, and it was difficult, really, very difficult. And so I decided I was going to close the shop. So when I came back, I systematically started closing. And then I sold the machines, paid off the bank, so at least I could keep the property. Went to the person that gave me the money. I went to him and said, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to continue. But you know what? I still have this property. I know it may not be enough for what I was owing, but that's all I have. Do you want to take it? Because I believe that making money is not a fluke. It can be done all over and over again. So I will rest a bit with the baby and then start again. And the guy touched me because he said, so if I take this land, what do you have? I said, nothing, but I'm fine. I'm okay. I'll just take my time, rest a bit, maybe look for a job. I'm a hard worker, right? And I think it's too easy for me to get a job somewhere. Everybody will be very happy to have me. So I'll go take a job and then re-strategize and know what I want to do with my life. And the guy said, no, keep it. He said, keep it, keep the land. Actually, that's where our head office is
Wow.
today. Yeah.
Wow.
He said, keep the land. I trust you. Pay me when you can.
Uh-huh.
And who was this
Okay.
person?
He's just a friend, lives on my
Wow. Yeah.
estate. I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it, and I did pay him, and he's owing me right now, and I'm not even going to get more from him. I'm not asking. He became a very good friend. So when I left, when I sold out, I joined my husband in our family business, where we were importing construction finishing products from China and pretty much everywhere in the world. At the time, we were one of the biggest stockists of electrical products along this Lekki corridor in Lagos. So, and that benefactor of mine that gave me that money was into real estate. So he was building big houses, skyscrapers, and all of that. And I solved one problem for me. So we kept in touch. We became very good friends. And he saw my devotion to my husband. I remember very well. Sometimes when I'm traveling, we say, "Would you pass by my office?" If I stop, he would just start praying for me. He says, "The way you carry your husband, the way you do this, God will bless you." And he will give me money. I am owing him. You know? So I remember, so I know that he built the first uh, uh, few houses, big skyscrapers that he built then. And then he was successful. He started phase B of it. He was doing about 300 and something flats, and he ran into trouble, big trouble, right? He went actually by himself to China, imported in bulk so that he could save on cost, but it wasn't properly stored, so he lost a lot of things. The project was really delaying, people were agitated, the banks were on him, he was a big mess, you know, and then he needed to actually even just open the place so at least some people can start living in it. But he can't open because he had a lot of products he needs that to finish up, he doesn't have it. It was just something. So he called me to just come and gist with him. So I usually do that, just sit down with him, gist in the site. So I went that particular day, and the event will be the next day, and the governor was supposed to come. So while we were there, his staff were complaining, those things were there. They just wanted to make up maybe a flat or two just to showcase. And I was like, what do you need? And they were like, okay, they needed distribution boards. I think that was what they needed at that point. I said, distribution board, how many do you want? And he said, well, if we can get like 300, blah, blah, blah. I said, which type? He told me. I said, do you have a truck to go and take it? He said, yes, he said, they have a truck. I said, okay, no problem. Send the truck to go. I gave a call to my warehouse people then. I said, call this guy, he will give you what he wants. So I was still with him at the site, gisting, and his staff that went to the warehouse called him and was screaming on the phone. So he called me and said, Uju, what? what's going on? And I said, what is it? He said that his staff said that everything they are looking for is in my warehouse, including light fittings. He needed like 1,500 pairs of light fittings, chandeliers, wall sockets, and all of that. So I said, okay, give me. So he gave me. And to be honest, that day, the product they took was like times 5 of what I was owing him,
Yeah.
and I gave him so that he could
Mm.
solve his problem. And he didn't pay me till today, but that's fine,
Yeah, yeah,
because he showed me good faith, really. And I'm very grateful, still grateful to him.
yeah. You're doing a favor for him. What? Yeah,
Returning the favor.
return the favor.
And then,
Yeah.
so transitioning from that kind of
From
construction
that,
commodity business.
yeah, so while we were there, so I was in my family business for like 10 years too, right? And so, you know how it is. I felt that we needed, because um, in my studies and research I know that businesses evolve, right? It's like a
Yep.
curve, so you get to your highest and then it starts dropping. And so you must innovate to be able to carry yourself, maybe not that part of the business. So I was thinking of how else to innovate the family business, okay? And at that point, we were already also doing construction finishings, okay, doing the labor part of it as well as the hardware part of it as well. So to do all of that, I felt I needed to broaden my own mindset. So I enrolled in the China Europe International Business School for their Global Executive MBA. And by the way, I'm the class president of the Zurich Gemba 2016.
Wow.
So yes. So I enrolled in that school, and whilst there was when the Nigerian government placed FX control. The exchange rate of the dollar to the naira was quite high. That was the first time it got to 500 naira to $1.
Wow.
Right now it's about 1,500. Well, that time in 2016, 2017 was when it happened. And the difficult thing then was that product prices didn't increase. Product prices remained the same and became lower, actually. But the exchange rate, so for us importers, it was very difficult
Yeah.
because you are importing higher, but you're supposed to pay to sell lower. So how are you going to do it? So I was not looking for how I could get cheaper dollar, so that because we had invoices to settle in China.
Mm.
Okay. And so half of my class in SIBS is the number one business school in China.
Mm.
Okay. Yes, it is. So half of my classmates were Chinese. So I was thinking I could get someone to do like a currency swap with me. Maybe they have some things they're doing in Africa. I could help them make payments and all of that. But I didn't find. But someone introduced me to an agropreneur, someone involved in agricultural commodities.
Yeah.
She's based off of China, out of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
So one of our program, because the Global Executive MBA was fashioned in such a way that we were taking classes from different parts of the world every other month. So we'll do Europe, do Africa, do Asia, do China, do US, different places, Brazil, all that. So on one of our trips, African trip we would take in Ghana, I met the lady and she wanted a partner in Nigeria that could help her source for agricultural commodities when they need it. So I thought I could help her. I have this naira. I could help make the payments here, and then they will only just pay me in dollars. Okay. In fact, she proposed to share profit with me. So
Nice.
it was like a prayer answered, right?
Yeah.
And that period it was around March, April. It was around March, well, February, March, around this time, really. And they needed granules, and it was also cashew period. It was this time. So she said she had Indian customers that wanted granules, about 20 containers, 400 metric tons. So I was quite excited. I called back to Nigeria, got samples sent to her. They approved it. It was Java grape. They approved it. And they said, in fact, they will make it very interesting. If I could bring the products to a warehouse in Lagos, they will come to Lagos, inspect, pay me on the spot. In fact, if I even want, they were going to send the money for me to China to solve my problems. So I was quite
Ah,
excited about it, you know, and sent samples, they approved, and I started looking for the products. I didn't find. I didn't find the product. I didn't find the products. And I know that Nigeria is one of the, at that time, one of the biggest growers of granules.
Mm.
I didn't find. I put together a team to help look for. The team went round different places and they came back to me to say that I had to give them cash. They will carry the cash to different markets and be buying in piecemeals. And in my head, as they were saying that in my head, I was trying to understand because 400 metric tons will be 4,000 bags of 100 kg bags or 8,000 or 50 kg bags.
Yeah.
That would be 400 metric tons. So I was imagining how they will go to this market, see 10. They'll buy. And I said, where will you keep it? They said they will rent warehouse. The logistics were just too much for me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something I could put myself into. And I think because I wasn't in the business, so I don't know the nuances of that business nor how to navigate myself in the business. So we lost the deal.
Mm.
Yeah, a few days down the line, I woke up in the middle of the night. I had fever. And I think the fever stems from the fact that I saw a solution to a problem I have and I couldn't execute to
Yep.
unlock the solution. And I also think that because I was in school for our program, we had already had a case on Alibaba. So with that knowledge, I felt the frustration Jack Ma had when he couldn't find Chinese beer on the internet. Because I was thinking, if I, a Nigerian living in Lagos with cash, couldn't find granules to buy, how are the Indians, the Chinese, finding granules in Nigeria? That was a question
Absolutely.
for me,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I felt that somebody needs to create visibility of what is possible and put it there, so that anybody could find it and buy. Because I believe that there are people who are looking for who to buy their product.
Mm. So how
And
did you go about solving it? Because I think this is so fascinating for me, especially like there's so many small individual players, as you said, like all of these, potentially family farms growing all of these products. How do you go about aggregating that so that they can sell to kind of the national and international market?
well, I was hit with a triple whammy, just so that I don't have all the answers. I still don't. But coming from a business school like SIBS, I felt that if I just created a platform like Alibaba, and get people on the platform, that they will meet themselves and they'll trade amongst themselves. I'll just create the visibility. So I was thinking that way. Once you create the platform, everything is okay. I created a platform, nothing was happening. Nothing,
Yeah.
nothing. In fact, 2 months down the line, I couldn't pay salary,
Mm-hmm.
because no trade, nobody was talking. Nobody. I've
Mm.
put buyers come. I wasn't seeing anything. So I tried to dig why. And I realized that three things faced me. Tech for tech's sake is nonsense.
Yeah.
As sexy as your tech is, if people are not using it, you've just wasted your time. That's one. Two, trade in Africa is somehow there is a trust matter that must be
Mm-hmm.
solved. If you do not solve for trust, trade will not happen.
Mm.
Because I realized that buyers and sellers were meeting on the platform, but then buyers will ask the seller to supply me and I pay you, and seller is saying, pay me and I supply you. I
Yeah.
don't trust,
Yeah.
even amongst Africans. So trade wasn't happening. Another thing is, okay, payment terms. Buyers, especially the international buyers, want to pay through letters of credit. For an African supplier, letters of credit is paper. He just needs cash to be able to do the trade and give you. And I'm talking the genuine ones that want to do this trade. So how do you solve for trust? How do you solve for payment terms? And because I'm fearless, like I've told you, and I
Yep.
believe that anything I have to do it. and I don't chicken out easily. Maybe that's why I'm inside this quack by myself, because maybe I should have chickened out that time and said, you know what, I've tried, it's not working, I have left. And that's why I also know that entrepreneurship is a calling, because if it's not a calling, you will want to leave after a while. I didn't want to go. I just kept looking for what the problem is, finding that problem, solving it, and meeting the next problem. That's what has happened in the last 8 years. Because to solve for trust, we had to create a Source Pro unit, created a TI to be able to get the funding, give these guys the money where they need it. These guys collect the letters of credit, so everybody is happy, and then trade could happen. Created massive issues as well. Losses came as a result. So it's as if you have one win and 10 losses. Take one step forward and take 20 back, and then you keep trudging. Difficult, trust me, but it has to happen, because that visibility needs to be there in the first instance, for buyers to be able to see what is available. And I'm not just talking only global buyers, I'm also talking about Africans.
Yeah.
Knowing that these things are, some of the things I import are actually done by my neighbors, and I could, take that. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy imported products. I'm also saying that there are local options, and putting it out there, because if it's out there, the local people are able to sell, then they can also grow and increase their capacity, and all of that. So having to oil all of that and make that work is where the work is, and that's what we're doing.
And majority of the people who use the platform, are they kind of larger producers, or do you still even get like that small scale producers and you're like kind of aggregating them?
Both, so you see, like I say, what obtains today from what obtained 8 years ago, really different.
Yeah.
So I always ask my question: what does a big manufacturing outfit in Ivory Coast require today? Sometimes the requirement is not visibility, because they are visible. Sometimes the requirement is not who we supply to them, because everybody who wants to supply is willing to supply to them, because they know them and they can bring the products to them. Sometimes what they need is somebody to help them make those payments when those products are put in, so that these suppliers are happier to continue to bring products to him. Sometimes what he needs is, there are banks giving him money, but the money, because of single obligor units, the banks are not able to give all that money at once. And so he's having to deal with 20 banks to be able to get the volume of money he needs to deal. So is that possible? Is there a possibility to have an outfit where he can get enough for him to be able to continue to do his business? So it's not just creating the visibility. Like I say, so over the years, we have transformed from just being a marketplace, creating visibility, to a Pan-African hub for facilitating trade. So facilitating trade now comes in different ways. Of course, the marketplace is still there, but we now have to create SOFA Pay, because we now have to deal with this kind of people, and also the smallholder farmers in remote African villages who requires just cash payments. How do you help them?
So Uju, do you think really you champion the way that Nigerians thinking? Like you kind of change the way they're thinking of transactions, right? As you mentioned earlier, pretty much they are pretty traditional with cash transactions and doing things like not online. Online is still a novel thing for them. So do you think you actually transform that the mental thing in Nigeria,
Well, I don't want.
or there's a long way to go?
There's a long way to go. That's what I was coming to. It's not
Yeah.
Uhuru yet. Africans will say it's not Uhuru, as in it's not El Dorado yet, right? You know, we're still, it's the process, and the process is still long. If you remember, just a few years ago, after the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement was signed and ratified by banks to make it easy for Africans to even trade amongst themselves. We are talking, since I have not even mentioned logistics, which is a big headache on its own. So all of these things are the things that make online trade difficult, because trade, buying and selling online is very easy, but it's the fulfillment of the trade, which logistics is what plays the whole part. How do we move something from Lagos, Nigeria to Nairobi, Kenya? And how fast can it go?
Yeah.
Sometimes is easier, cheaper, and faster for you to move things to the United States of America, so from Lagos to United States or Lagos to China, than for you to move the thing from Lagos, Nigeria to Ghana.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to jump on quickly and say a massive thank you for all of the support so far. But I also wanted to ask a favor of you guys. We want this podcast to reach as many people as possible so that we can share all of the incredible learnings that we've had so far. But in order for us to do that, we need to grow our following to beat the algorithms. But the good news is, however, there is one simple thing that you can do to help us reach that goal. So I ask you if you could please follow or subscribe to us on whatever channel you're listening to this on. It'll help us grow the channel, which means we can get on bigger and better guests for you guys. And with that, back to the episode. And was your family supportive of this business? I know they weren't of the previous one, but of this one?
Well, comme c'est comme ça. More like, Uju, you like trouble. You know, why can't, I think that's what I hear. You like trouble. You know, why can't you just do the simple things? Maybe own a hair shop. I'm not saying, I mean, hair shop is also not easy. No business is easy, but do something simple. Trying to revolutionize the way business and trade is done is difficult, and trying to do it well and still keep your head up is very difficult. And working in Africa where all odds seem to be against you is what makes it more difficult.
And
So starting from funding, not having enough funding to work, the people, different things, different moving things.
and have you had any like feedback from any of your customers that like pushes you to keep going? Like have
Yes,
you heard from farmers who have just like told you that this has revolutionized the way that they kind of do trade?
plenty. But like I said, somebody can be very happy with your platform today. Tomorrow, he's no longer happy because he found something else he wants to do. So we're still at that stage. And like I say, it's evolving, right? I think when we were onboarding suppliers and traders and farmers on our platform, on one of our trips, because what I tried to do when we started was three things was important to me. I wanted it to be Pan-African. I didn't want it to be just a Nigerian company. I wanted it to be Pan-African because then the market is large. I also wanted to just own the tech. Okay, I wasn't going to own anything. I was just going to own the tech. So I don't have warehouse. We operate a just-in-time model, and all of that. So when we were onboarding suppliers on that platform, my team went to the Upper Volta region in Ghana, and they were told that 2 days prior to them coming there was a guy who borrowed money to plant tomatoes. Okay, and then they harvested, but because no buyer came and he couldn't sell, of course, tomatoes being a perishable goods, perished. And because he didn't see any way for him to pay back what he borrowed, he committed suicide.
Oh.
Yes. So when my team got there, they were seen as God sent, and of course, onboarded everybody on the platform. But this is just one of the many stories that abound on the reason why visibility is very key. But like I always say, visibility alone is not the answer, because even if you've created visibility for this farmer, if he still doesn't sell, the same thing will happen.
Yep.
So there's also all of those moving pieces that needs to happen simultaneously. But bottom line is that let the trade happen.
So Uju, Alibaba inspired you to start this business, and I also saw you doing some, business with Alibaba or some kind of relationship with Alibaba.
Okay, so you can imagine that I wanted to be Alibaba for Africa, and I've painstakingly courted them since we started. I was invited to their office for their e-commerce, their e-founders fellowship program. It's a program that was organized by the Alibaba Global Initiative and the UNCTAD, United Nations Center for Trade and Development. So they took a few of us to Alibaba Shishi campus in Shanghai, impressive campus. It's actually more interesting and finer now. And for 2 weeks, they exposed us to the whole of Alibaba, not the whole, but to a lot of Alibaba's ecosystem, and made us understand how they began and all of that, just to open and broaden our mindset as well. I'm forever indebted to that program, I must say, because I remember that when I was founding TOFA, my idea was to be everywhere in Africa, open in Africa, have my offices in everywhere in Africa. But after that program, I realized that even Alibaba doesn't do that.
Uh-huh.
So Alibaba thrives on partnerships.
Yep.
Okay. So I got my aha moment on the day we went to the logistics place, and I was reading the history of Tania and how Alibaba started with 35 logistics companies. I was reading it. If you go there, walking up to the boardroom, on the staircase, there are pictures on the staircase. I don't know how my eye caught that there are letters on the picture. So while people were upstairs, I took my time walking up gradually and reading the history. And that was my aha moment in my whole 2 weeks of being there. So it changed my mindset because it means that I have to continuously look for partners, people to work with me. The easiest thing to do is to work alone. And then you come out of doing your thing because then you're doing your thing. But you don't go far because there are issues. And I've tried it. Sometimes I forget myself. I still try to do things by myself. But I realize that even if I encounter or I enjoy a novel success, it doesn't last. I encounter issues. So it means I have to find a way to collaborate with other people to have a long-lasting success and a success that is sustainable. So and that's what I'm doing.
All
So
right.
TOFA collaborates with different people in different countries doing different things. My last collaboration is with AfroExim, and all of that to do so many things. So I no longer will do things by myself. I always have some people doing those things with me.
And that seems like a key kind of lesson that you've learned throughout your time in business. Are there any other key lessons that you kind of taken away from this 8-year journey?
Show up,
Show up.
just show up. You know, as an entrepreneur, I realize that there are days when you don't want to remove the duvet from your head. You just cover your head with the duvet and stay there. You just want to stay there with the lights all out, no noise, nothing. You just want to put yourself and never wake up. you know. But in the midst of all of that, ability to get up, dust yourself, take a bath, wear your clothes, and go there and sit down, even when you don't understand what you're doing, even when what you're doing is not making sense to you, just go there
Yep.
because it is when you show up that opportunities will come. In fact, I realized that the highest things that have happened to me in TOFA were when I was at my lowest. I realized that transactions were not happening. So do I close up? Do I close? Is it that close shop and go? And then the idea comes, look at the problem, solve for trust, solve for payment terms. And we started doing a bit of that. Transactions started happening. Of course, it came with its own issues. You're making losses. How do you streamline the losses? How do you pay back the debt? How do you do this? Another issue came up, another uh, 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 idea came up. You tried it, it's working, but this issue came up again. So how do I solve for this? So it's like we're continuously solving problem. And if you don't show up, two things happen. People don't see you as serious. So it means that even the right partners that you want are not interested in working with you because they believe that you're not consistent. Okay. And then when you don't show up, those opportunities, when they come, you're not there. So if you're not there, the next person who is there takes it. And I learned this from one of my brothers. So my second brother, Emeka, is a businessman, right? Still is. He told me a story many years ago. Wheelbarrow. If you know wheelbarrow, right? Barrow. I don't know. They use it in construction sites. He was
A
one of the guys.
wheelbarrow.
Yes, wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys that at the time in the East, it was not very common. So he was one of the guys importing it at that time. In fact, it was the highest, importing it. He had some guys distributing it for him and all of that. But he was not making a lot of money from it. He had other business lines that was giving him more money. And I think the Chinese or the people that he was buying from were encouraging him to continue. He felt no, he wasn't going to continue to do it. He stopped. In fact, what he did was that he called the guy who was doing most of the distribution for him and gave him the contact of the manufacturers and said, deal with these guys, that's fine. So he left. It was as if he left at a time when he should stay, because it didn't take up to a year or two. Wheelbarrow became very popular. It became a huge thing till today. So the lesson he told me, when I go to him and I say I'm complaining, he said, "Would you stay there? Stay there. Don't go." He says sometimes it will be like, no, there are other things I can do. Stay there. In fact, when it gets very difficult, stay there, because what happens is that every other person leaves. And if you're number 10, number 5 will leave, you become number 9. Number 4 will leave, you become number 8. 8 will leave, 7 will leave, you become. At a time, you realize that you're number 1.
Yep.
And there's nobody else. And at that point is when opportunities open up in that space. And it doesn't make sense for any other person to deal with any other person apart from you.
Great advice, Uju.
Yes.
So on that, do you now, looking back, regret kind of closing up your first business?
No.
So then on the back of that, is there a time when you know it's right to finish, like a right to walk away?
Yes. You feel it.
You feel it.
You feel, they say, remember what Professor Anat, is it Anat? What's that professor's name? That says hope is a strategy.
Yep. And
Hope is a strategy. So
Yeah.
when you're in a business, I no longer see the future in that business. Truthfully. So what I have also learned over the last 2-3 years is to hold myself accountable, all right, for everything, and also tell myself the whole truth. I've always done that, the whole truth. So I take stock by myself. I sit down and I say, this is the truth of this. I can talk to you about my business and paint it all so well that you're in love with my business. But inside me, I'm the one that knows that this business is not going to work. I'm lying here. You can't lie to yourself, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
So they said to yourself, be true. So if you're true to yourself, your answer is there. Your answer, you might say, well, this is a huge business. If only I can get ABC. So you have your answer
Yeah.
there. How do I get ABC? So even if you're doing CDE, you know that I have to leave CDE and move to look for ABC, because that's what I need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Uju, I read somewhere on the net in 2019, you won Entrepreneurship World Cup in Nigeria.
Yes, I
And
did.
then represent Nigeria.
In Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Tell us about it, please.
So the Global Entrepreneurship Network, the Global Entrepreneurship Network had it's like Entrepreneurship World Cup that is done all over the world, right? So the Nigerian part, and this was my first ever competition. First ever. I have never gone out to pitch TOFA to anybody before then. I didn't know what to expect. So I went there saying, let me just go and say my own and learn. That was my mindset going
Yep.
there, to learn. So when they called the third position, called the second position, on my own, I already know who should be the first position at that point. and it wasn't us. So you can imagine if I when they called TOFA first, I didn't get up because it didn't sink like it was TOFA. It didn't sink. It was my staff that came with me that started jumping. When I looked at them, I was like, us TOFA. It was also a good experience because what they wanted was to put global 100 companies from all over the world. And so they assembled all of us in Riyadh, first in Jeddah, and then to Riyadh. The idea is to they also expose that asked us to if we are interested in setting up our businesses in Saudi Arabia, they gave us all of that. It's still available. But the idea is to mentorship, how to talk more about your business, open their mindset. Networking is key in what we are doing. And I really enjoy entrepreneurs or people, not even just entrepreneurs, people to keep building your network. They say you're as rich or as big as your network is. Okay, so that's what we did there. A very huge experience for me, first time. So
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that's awesome. And I suppose today we've spoken a lot about business, but at the beginning you mentioned family is quite a big part. Can you tell us a little bit about what having kids has taught you? What does family mean to you?
family is everything to me. You know, um, I mean, I keep saying if you're very successful in your business and you have all the money in the world and you have no one to spend that money is, you've that wasted your life.
Mm.
So it's very important that what should matter,
Mm,
and my family comes first.
mm, mm. How do you balance Uju, like the family and work and all that?
I don't know whether this is a good platform to say it, but I've also learned not to be apologetic about it anymore. Before I used to be, but I'm a child of God, right? I tell myself that. And I know that somehow God, not I somehow, I know that God has a hand in helping me navigate it. So let me give you an instance. I have had opportunities, business opportunities that will entail that I am away when any of my kids are taking an external examination, and I have cancelled my business opportunity just to be there as moral support for my child to go to school and take that exam. And there's nothing I'm doing. It's just being in the hall, sitting down, waiting for 4 hours for that child to go and take an exam and come back and meet me, and I take her home. Just that moral support.
Mm.
So I have realized also the hand of God at work in timing and placement. Using this entrepreneurship World Cup that we just spoke about, going from Saudi Arabia, from Jeddah to Riyadh. And then I was invited for the first ever Alibaba Business Heroes, the summit that they did in Ghana in 2019, to come and present TOFA to an audience that has the president of Ghana, Jack Ma, Jet Li, all these guys. And do you know what happened? I was in Jeddah, I think 14, 15, 16, no, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 5 days. And I will speak on the 16th. So I finished the event. I didn't stay for the party in Riyadh. I left that night, okay, landed in Ghana the next afternoon, and my event was the next morning.
Mm,
Dedication.
And all of these things were events that I do not have any hand in planning the timing. Because if I do have a hand, I can say, okay, let me manage it the way it will work for me,
Yeah.
right? But these were events, and trust me, Jam, this has happened not once, not twice, not three times, not four times. It has always happened to me. If I have events, somehow it looks as if there's a being orchestrating it. And once I see it as a confirmation that it's something you have to do
Mm. And
because he makes it happen.
yeah. And I suppose, what's next for you, Uju?
to grow TOFA, this TOFA, we need to grow it, right, to where it needs to be. There's a lot of changes happening in TOFA. There's a lot of partnerships coming in. What I have done in TOFA is to put like 3-4 companies together and run it as one. Um, going by the last OPM Unit 3, two things hit at me. Two things. The GEBS uh, uh, review. You remember GEBS? GEBS, Nitin Tako. Okay. His case hit at me, and also Professor Nat Hope.
Yeah.
So I left that unit very sure of what I should do, and I'm executing as it is. There's a lot of partnership conversations that's going on that will entail that a few of what we are doing is going to be handled by other people. Two of them we're scaling up as well to figures that scares even me, that I can't even mention to any next person around me,
Yeah.
because you think I'm having hallucinations. But that's the truth, and that's the next step for TOFA, and I'm just praying to God that I'm able to do what I must to get to where we are, because I just have like 5 years
Yeah.
to give this company.
No, that sounds really exciting. And I suppose wrapping this conversation up, looking back on your journey, do you feel successful?
I'm on the path.
Yeah.
I'm on the path of success. I'm happy because 3 of my kids are in college, right? And my last is in high school. So I'm happy that in the midst of the challenges I've had in TOFA, they still came first.
Yeah.
I don't have any qualms. It hasn't changed. I would think that trying to build TOFA will change that mindset that, TOFA now comes first before the family.
Yeah.
I've continued to keep the family first, and it has worked.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. His graciousness. I'm just a very grateful person, and thankful to God and for the people God has put in my path. Because I'm a child of God, I don't believe in coincidence. There's a reason why I met them, and we're having this
Hope to
conversation
see.
today.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So, and I've met people who have touched me in that class. Casey is one.
Yeah. It's
That
awesome.
I can't even understand the kind of person that guy is.
Yeah.
There's some people like him in that class too that are discussed. Mohit doesn't know Mohit Jain. He will be surprised when he sees this, but he doesn't know. There's a comment he made to me. He might not know that what that comment meant to me, and that comment, I don't know whether it was even there was even a positive comment like that, but that comment did a lot to me. He doesn't know. I'm not going to share to him until next year. Next year, not even this reunion. The next reunion is when I'm going to tell him what he did for me, and I'm very grateful to him. So it's been. I mean, I didn't know that I'll go attend Harvard Business School
Yeah.
and attend the OPM. I didn't know. I'm just a very grateful person
Yeah,
to
and you
God.
you you show up as well. As you mentioned, you show up in your business life and also your family life. And I suppose to wrap this conversation up, throughout our discussion, I've been jotting down a few key factors which I think have led to your successful life, and I want to share them with you. The first one is you're very family centered. I mean, throughout our discussion, that came up so many times, and I think having that kind of core base of family allows you to, have something that you can always look back, who you're doing this for, and it gives you that to kind of build upon. So I think that's important. And then the second one is your unwavering confidence. Like the amount of stuff that you've done, and you've just gone out and just with full confidence gone.
Fearless.
And fearlessness. And I think, that's so important for especially overcoming risk and taking on challenges is having that self-confidence and that fearlessness. And I think that's been super important to where you've gotten to today. And as I suppose an extension of that is resilience. There's been, so many times where things didn't go your way. There was a few failures in there, but you managed to bounce back from those failures and, get to where you are today. TOFA, is doing well based on the experiences that you've had, being able to push through your past learnings. And then the last one is learning. I mean, you mentioned so many courses that you've done in there, whether it was Harvard, all your studies that you did. You went over to a business school as well. You're constantly trying to learn. And it's not just formal education either. I think learning from other people through partnerships and external programs as well. There's so much learning that goes on that you're constantly trying to do to kind of push yourself forward.
And now one thing that I've noticed, knowing you, Uju, for last 3 years, almost 3 years, is your authenticity. You're really authentic. Uju is Uju. Everybody know. I think that's definitely part of your anchor in your trust triangle, and that really help you to build partnership, relationship, and it's a privilege to have this conversation with you, Uju.
So thank you guys. I had fun. Did you notice?
Yeah, it was...
Definitely. We had so much fun. Yeah.
Thank you, and all the best with the quest for success.
Thank you so much. And if you are listening and you've gotten something out of today's conversation, if you could do us a massive favor and head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us there, or you can follow all of our episodes and see them on our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com. And with that, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Uju.